Today we're going to be talking about from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. Now this is set in during the timeline or the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. So this action thriller, it stars Anna de Armas as the character's name is Eve Macarro. She's a young woman trained as both a ballerina and as a deadly assassin in the traditions of the Ruska Roma. Now, driven by the personal quest for vengeance after the tragic loss of her father, Eve navigates the same dangerous underworld that John Wick does, and using her lethal skills and graceful precision to confront those who wronged her. This film delivers some pretty intense action, so it's definitely tons of action from beginning to end. So the fight choreography, it all ties into the John Wick lore. There is introduction of some new characters while featuring some familiar faces. So from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. So that's officially, and that's kind of right off of that's just kind of a spoiler free kind of synopsis of it, overview. So before I get into any information or spoilers, I did take some notes that I'll be referring to. I'll tell you who this movie is for. If you're not bothered at all by a tiny woman beating up 1,000 people twice or three or four times her size, if you're not bothered by any of that, this movie is going to be great because it is action packed. There's some really nice set pieces, and we're going to see some different places and some new faces. There are the additions of Gabriel Byrne, who's a very successful actor. Angelica Houston is back. There is the Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead is in it, and then we're also still have Ian McShane playing his character Winston, and you've also got Lance Reddick from the hotel there, and of course Keanu Reeves rounding out the cast there. So I don't want to hate too much, at least at this point, but there are some notes that I did take, which I'm going to share with you right now. Okay, time for me to give you the spoiler warning. Everything that follows after this are going to be my personal opinions, and there's going to be a lot of spoilers in it, and I just wanted to let you know that. So here it comes. So a few things. As it was, I mean, it's not really my cup of tea. I guess the John Wick movies aren't generally, although I've seen, I think, three of them. I'm just going to go off of my notes, which I jotted down. So forgive me if I'm glancing here, but I really didn't want to forget any of this because you're going to have to decide whether you're going to go and plunk down your hard-earned money to go and see this movie. Maybe you've seen some reviews, maybe you haven't. I'm going to give you my take. So I've been watching a lot of movies for many years, and so here's my thoughts as I tried to jot down in the dark rather sloppily a few things that you're going to find, or at least that I found. So I think if I was going to retitle it, I might have called it Mary Sue Wick Part 1. And all throughout it, they never lay a glove on her. She never breaks a sweat. She's a crack shot. She's taking down 300-pounders. She's shooting people from a football field away. She's throwing ice skates. She's throwing axes. She never misses one person. And really, nobody lays a glove on her. And that gets boring. It's really boring. I get it. She's not supposed to die. But, I mean, the way they set it up, it's in the preview. The theme throughout this movie is fight like a girl. So in the trailer, in the preview, what they say is, which I thought was kind of a kind of a shout out to the reality. I know this is all fantasy, but and the John Wick movies are ridiculous as well because nobody ever seems to really hit them. But what they said is it's fight like a girl, and that's all well and good. But they say in the trailer, this leader in the group that she's in says, "You're always going to be weaker. You're always going to be smaller." So what I thought there was going to be some which is a nice kind of a kind of admission, if you will, even in this fantasy land. But then they proceed to she just destroys everybody in sight, no matter where, no matter what, with whatever limited training she had. So a few notes here. They did there was a montage, where people progress at something, but it happened really in the very beginning of the movie. They made a huge 12-year leap. They talked about nothing in between. She had this relationship with a friend of hers who's in this program. Well, somebody in the program who becomes her friend, and it's part ballet and it's part deadly assassin school. Okay, so they're learning both of these things at the same time, which again is all well and good. But at some point, her friend gets tossed out of the program, and for some reason, Eve, who's playing the ballerina, although she doesn't do very much ballet in the movie, her friend gets thrown out of the program, and she's in tears and she's pleading her case and worrying what happened. They didn't show any bond that these two developed over the years. They just leapt to 12 years later. So anyway, she ends up going through the program, kind of graduates through it. The one thing I noticed, there were no what are called plot points where the movie changes. There was maybe one big one, kind of, sort of. But if you think of your favorite movies, the best movies out there, the whole story that you're watching gets flipped on its head and everything changes with new information or a new incident. It doesn't really happen in this movie, really at all. So no plot points. There was a scene in there. Now, if you have seen this, you'll confirm this. By the way, if I missed something, please feel free to comment. So there was a scene where she's got to go out on her first job to protect a lady, a young girl rather, from some bad guys. And for some reason, they give her rubber bullets, and she follows her to a club. So you hear the thumping music, and I'll give them that. The music is awesome. Some of the scenery is very cool. But she has rubber bullets. She's fighting, 10 karate experts, and of course she beats them all and saves this girl. And then they just cut the scene to some other point. They never say what happens to this girl, how none of that gets resolved. So she walks out of that club. They have an off camera where she beats up a bunch of monsters in a bathroom, which they don't show. She exits the club. There's a flipped over car and dead people everywhere that I'm presuming all of whom she killed. And then she just kind of jumps into a car to take off. And one of the worst CGI car crashes I've seen probably in a long time. Super cheesy. I mean, I think they should have had the budget to take care of this. To do that in the right way. So what happens? She finds out that from the beginning of the movie, when her father's killed by this group who has a scar X on their wrist, which she remembers from before the 12-year leap, she notices that these people she's killed have that. And although she's taking pictures of things, and we're in modern times, she has a phone. For some reason, she chops off the bad guy's hand and walks around with a blood-dripping bag. But anyway, she shows up at the leader of the group, who's played by Angelica Houston, who, God bless her. She was really kind of phoning it in. She was barely, you could barely hear her speak. But anyway, she brings this bloody hand instead of just texting a picture like, where's this from? So anyway, they jump to another scene where she's on another mission. And what happens is through that turn of events, she ends up in the John Wick kind of situation. She actually had bumped into him at school previously. As it said, it's set during chapter 3. So after some events, she ends up getting the gold coin that you can use, for to go and stay in the hotel and to get armed up and all that. I don't really know how many coins they give them. I only saw her get one, although she uses it, or she has many coins to get weapons and to stay in hotels and to buy favors and information. It got to the point where I was thinking of her as Eve Skywalker. No matter where she was, she knew all the landscape. She was able to maneuver basically without any hindrance at all. She could jump over anything, climb up anything, fall off anything, use any weapon against people who've been using these weapons for years, seemingly. All of this, by the way, was to save a little girl who was the daughter of Norman Reedus, who, again, I'm not a huge fan. Like, I don't watch The Walking Dead. I didn't really. I watched the first season or so, but I do know Norman Reedus is a very popular actor, and he seems pretty wasted in here. They really don't let him do much. He's in a two short scenes. He's acting kind of punkish, like he's begging this tiny woman for help, even though he's a lifelong trained mafia killer or whatever. So her mission in this is to save this guy's daughter, who she doesn't even know. So she wants to go, and so she's trying to avenge her father. It's the same people. It's just kind of all mixed up, and there was a point at which I didn't really understand what was going on. So the other thing, and I know I mentioned it before, she doesn't even break a sweat. I mean, there was a couple points at which she glistened a little bit, but she's wearing a jacket. She's running all over the place. You know, they might have laid one glove on her. She probably cut herself or something like that. I'm not sure they even got it. So anyway, where Wick comes in with 20 minutes left in the movie, just to kind of keep the promise on that. Now, I know I might have mentioned in a short that I had heard he was a robot, and which I did. He was not, it was really him, but you might as well have thought it was a robot. I know he's a very quiet character anyway, stoic. So in this, he was so stoic, he was almost asleep. And so he's talking to the Eve character, who was speaking with an accent I couldn't quite understand, which was another thing. So you had Gabriel Byrne, who's Irish, speaking in a German accent. You've got Angelica Houston, who's American, speaking with a Russian accent. You've got Ana de Armas, who I'm not sure, I think she's Spanish or something, not attempting a German or a British accent, or, she was just kind of talking. They throw in a sister character who has yet another accent. It was just kind of a jumble, so, and by the way, so in the end, speaking of spoilers, they end up killing everybody, and John Wick helps a little bit. So there were some ins and outs. Obviously, it's a setup for a new trilogy, which I understand. So they're not gonna kill off the main character in it. But I think they could have challenged her more. And really, if you thought about it, when you find out at the end why she's there and what she's there to do, it's something they could have just assigned to John Wick to take care of himself. I mean, why bother with all the intrigue? You could have just sent the best to take care of the job anyway. So, but I get it. And then it just kind of ends. I thought there was going to be an end credit scene, which there was not. There was no we'll see you in the next one or anything like that. But I don't know, probably whether this movie is a big hit or whether it flops. I'm sure there's going to be a follow-up. And so that's my take on it. I planned on doing some jokes. I was going to do like and you'll remember Ian McShane from Deadwood. And speaking of Deadwood, let's talk about Angelica Houston. But to tell you the truth, I forgot to drop that one. So also, if you couldn't tell, I was attempting to use a teleprompter, which I've never done. It's quite uncomfortable. I'm not sure how that's going to go in the future. But anyway, that wraps it up for the Muy Macho. And if you have any comments on anything I said or any disagreements or anything like that, please comment. And if you enjoyed and you want to stay caught up, please do subscribe if you are Muy Macho.